the cloud, and we are good to go, man. Glad to have you on the podcast. We talked over on Instagram and now we're here. So super excited to dive deep into everything you've been up to and how you've created success.
Oh, yeah.
But before we do, I wanted to introduce today's podcast guest. He is Cole, who is a 29-year-old entrepreneur who went from a drug addict iron worker to seven-figure CEO in the last 6.5 years. He has over 1.3 million followers across social media platforms, and he is now inspiring, motivating, and transforming people's lives while teaching them how to create financial freedom and more. Cole, how's your day so far? How are you doing?
What's up, brother? I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me on. Honestly, it's been a good day. It's been a really good day. We had a lot of meetings, event meetings, because we're going to be throwing a couple events coming up here soon with our business. And on the personal side, my son finally learned how to get up on his knees and his hands. So it's like right close to him being able to crawl. So it's super cool.
That's the biggest win. That's the biggest win right there.
So sick. Watching him like start to develop and like listen and look around and understand what's going on, man. I'm like, it's such a weird, cool, just exciting feeling every single day.
Yeah. And knowing that you can probably instill beliefs and confidence and self-esteem in him is probably even a better feeling.
Bro, it's everything to me. I'm like, once we had him, at first it was like very weird, the concept of me being a dad based off of how I was raised and everything else that happened. But then like actually becoming one and like watching this little human just like start to develop, I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm like, I look at my wife and I'm like, you made this little thing. I'm like, this is so weird to me, bro. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. I'm like, every time I touch the little arms and shit, I'm like, is this thing real? It's so weird.
That's awesome, man. It's a great milestone to have, and congratulations on that.
Thank
but
you.
What I want to do is take it all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I gave your intro, but how did you even get to this point? What was the journey? I want to take it all the way back from zero to hero, because of course that inspires everybody who's listening, but it also inspires me. I want to know where you went from 0 to 6 to 6 to 7 figures. What happened along that path?
All right. So I'll bring you back to the beginning and then we'll try to speed up the story as we're going through. Because if I try to explain every detail, we'll be here for 5 hours. So originally was born and raised, grew up in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, because I'm a Canadian. Are you in America?
I'm in Canada, man. I'm in Newmarket.
Oh, there we go. I don't know what the fuck Newmarket is, but there we go. I like it. Canadian boy. Where is that?
It's close. It's 30 minutes north of Toronto.
Oh, okay, cool. So like Ontario boy as well. So I grew up in Thunder Bay, Ontario. All right. Armpit of Canada, just absolute dog shit. While I was there, really struggled with drugs, really struggled with alcohol, basically just focused on partying and like didn't really do anything with my life. I was there until I was 19. At the age of 14, based off of how much anger, resentment, frustration was in my family, I chose to leave my household and couch surf. Now, it wasn't like I cut my parents and my family completely out of my life, but I was present and aware enough that I knew that if we stayed there, worse things would have happened. It would have got even worse. So I chose to just leave at massive gaps of time, sleep with my friends, hang out with my friends' houses, stay with them, because every time I would come home, a lot of fighting would erupt. Now, at 19 years old, I was kind of in a hole where literally all me and my friends did, because I had no money. I was working at Walmart as an overnight stalker at the time, stealing fucking groceries and different things so we'd be able to eat and get enough money to go buy alcohol. Like, I always joke that my friends and I were the trailer park boys, because we literally had no money, to the degree where we would pool just to get enough for like beef jerky and vodka. Like, we actually did that shit. Like, we actually were that broke at one time. So at 19, super into drugs, super into alcohol, struggling with my life. We ended up taking a road trip to Calgary, Alberta. All right. Again, for all of you Americans, that is in Canada. All right. Just so you guys know what's going on. And we literally drove here just to party. All right. That was it. My older buddy knew a couple people out in Calgary. We're like, let's take a road trip. Let's go have some fun. Let's party it up. Let's let loose. I'm like, yeah, sounds good. Why not? So me and my two buddies took a road trip, drank the whole time, picked up a couple hitchhikers, got them drunk. It was a blast. It was a good time. All right. Got there, partied for a week straight, just straight drugs, alcohol the whole time. And then my older brother, my older sister actually lived in Calgary basically for as long as I could remember. I barely had a relationship with them when I lived back in Thunder Bay, because there was a lot of disconnect in my family. A lot of things happened. they kind of got disconnected from us. So we'd talk, but not like an actual relationship, as you know what's going on with that. So in Calgary, met up with my brother, met up with my sister, got to connect with them a little bit deeper. And while we were about to go back to Thunder Bay, my older brother pulled me aside and he's like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, why would you ever go back to Thunder Bay? Like, there's literally no point. You don't have a job that's going anywhere. You're broke as shit. All you're doing is drinking and doing drugs. Like, why don't you just stay? I remember having an argument. You understand at that age, you're like, well, why? Like, I don't have anybody. And you're only focused on the friends. You're not focused on the growth of life. So that was my argument to him, where he just proceeded to say, if I get you a job interview, will you stay? I was like, yeah. Like, if you give me a job interview, I'm like, that gives me some sort of path to the future. So I'm in. So got me a job interview as an ironworker, where I was going to become a laborer. And literally the interview was hilarious because all they did is say, can you pick up that beam? And I was like, okay. And I picked up the beam and he's like, dope, you're hired at $18 an hour. I was like, yeah. It was like this old Scottish man. His name was Kevin. The guy was the most angry, hilarious motherfucker you ever see in your whole life. Like, I watched this guy fight random dudes on our job site, but that's besides the point. So got hired as a laborer. All right. Honestly, it was great for me because it gave me an outlet to just like grunt work it out. Just like from shitty work to now I show up to a job site and I'm hucking turfers, and turfers are like big steel cables that go from the ground to the top of the steel to make sure the building doesn't fly away. So I'd be hucking 15, 20 turfers a day for hours and hours and on through mud, everything else, making sure the building stood. Told my friends I wasn't going back because I got the job as an ironworker, stayed in Calgary. And then after around a year of doing that, I started to develop arthritis and carpal tunnel in my hands.
Wow.
So I moved to Calgary for a better life. I wanted to get away from the drugs and alcohol because that's all we were doing. And there was no future. Like, there literally wasn't. I still know a bunch of homies that I got mad love for back in my hometown, but let's be real. They're doing nothing. They're literally just working a 9 to 5 to go home, to drink on the weekends, to do the same thing. And that wasn't a good enough life for me. I wanted more. So I went to Calgary because I thought it was going to be my escape. After around a year and a half of not really knowing anybody, literally just living with my sister in her spare bedroom or my brother in his spare bedroom, spending all of my money on drinking or just sitting on the couch and watching TV, I started to develop carpal tunnel and arthritis in my forearms. Because you got to think, right? Have you ever had like a baseball bat and you end up hitting it against metal by accident, or a hammer and your hands fucking rattle like crazy and it hurts?
Yeah.
Well, that was me 24/7 while I was at the job, because we're hitting steel with sledgehammers. We're rattling bolts up. I'm using spud wrenches to connect the steel so I can pull it together. We weren't standing like skyscrapers, but I was standing anywhere from like 40 to 70 foot high warehouses for either like airport hangars or different job sites. Well, after around a year and a half, my hands and arms started to give out due to how much rubbling and rambling was happening. So at around 21, 22 years old, I started to go to the doctor being like, I need help. I was like, I'm waking up with chicken feet, like literally could barely open my hands. So my older sister would have to like literally help me work my forearms out in the morning at 22 years old because I couldn't open my hands anymore. Just was told, go get some ibuprofen, really can't help you here. Like, it's just stress on your body, blah, blah, blah. Again, doctors don't know shit in Canada, which you probably understand. The Canadian healthcare system is ridiculous. They have no idea what they're doing. Tried to get help. I couldn't get it. So me going into problem solving mode, because even though I worked shitty jobs in the past, I was always a problem solver. I always would just figure it out. I was resourceful. So I just found somebody who could help me. So they gave me a couple Percocets because they were already experimenting with them on our job site. Before I knew it, on a chill day where I wasn't in my head and everything was going great, I would eat an average of 4, right? Between chewing, sniffing, or eating, and I like actually just eating the pills for a day. On a bad day where I was stressed out, I would have 7+. So the reason why I have that like range and I explain it to people like that is because I would carry around 100 in my pockets at all times. So I'd just go buy bottles off the street. And then as the pain would come back, I would just take another one. So some days it was great. I'd only have a couple and it was all good. And then some days it would get crazy out of hand because not only would I take around 4 to 7 and then I would lose count, but then we'd drink afterwards and then keep partying into the night. And that's how it was for a long time. So I was around over a year, really struggled with Percocets, 4 to 7+ a day, while also drinking until around 10 to midnight, usually. And then straight back to work. My morning ritual at work was starting on the job site. I would take 1 to 2 perks, chew them up, or just take them. I would chug a king size Red Bull. And it was like mine and this other guy's ritual that I worked with. I'm going to keep his name out of it. And that was just like the normal routine for us. So as I was operating machinery and climbing steel, I was just high off my fucking ass. the entire time.
Wow.
Like super numb to the world, numb to the emotions, numb to the conditions outside weather-wise. Because obviously, again, Canadian boy, you get it. It's either freezing here or it's ridiculously hot, especially in Calgary. So it was a lot, man. And it was just a dark road for me for a long time until I found fitness. Until it was like fitness was my gateway out of it, because I eventually had hit a point where I was like, I hate my fucking life. I was like, I'm going nowhere. $20,000 plus in debt, 2 credit cards racked up to the max. I have an overdraft on my credit card to this day / debit card, because I was so high one day and I didn't have money to be able to take out cash to go buy pills, that I screamed at the teller and she gave me a $3,000 overdraft. So I've got this ridiculous overdraft to my debit card. So was super in debt. Couldn't really do anything with my life, was addicted to perks at the time, drinking a copious amount of alcohol on a continual basis. I'm talking about finishing 2 6s to 40s, like every 4 to 7 days. Like the liquor store clerk knew my name. I had my box ready to go at the counter, like no matter what, we'd come in all the time. And I just reached a point in my life where I'm like, eventually I looked in the mirror and was like, I hate you. If you don't change, you're going to end up like these guys that you can't stand on your job site. So like, that's it, done. You're finished. So had an embarrassing night at the party. And when I say the party is I went out to a New Year's party, got super fucked up, lost track of time, lost track of myself, lost track of where I was, embarrassed myself, made a fool of myself. Friends videotaped me. And the next day, even though I didn't watch the video, I could hear it. I don't know if you've ever had a situation like that where someone plays something back of you, super embarrassing, just like washed with embarrassment and resentment and frustration and anger. And like even to this day, when I talk about like the emotions, I get like goosebumps. And that was a good trigger point for me, where I just tried to change a little bit, cut out pills, then went back to them. Cut out pills because I couldn't buy anymore. Went and picked up like a bunch of extra strength Baxicet, was eating like 20 to 30 of those a day. And then Percocets came back on the street, got a little bit more of those, and then just had a snapshot moment like I was talking about, looking in the mirror, and dumped all the pills in the toilet, quit cold turkey, went through the pill sickness, and then started working my fitness goals to change my life.
That's beautiful. So that was your bottom moment where you saw that and you heard that embarrassing video, and it was just like, I already hate myself. My life is already shit, but this is the straw that broke the camel's back. And
yeah, I think it was like, there was a lot of different ones, like, because I don't know if you've ever struggled with alcohol or drugs. Have you?
I've struggled with smoking and drinking, and that's why I do a lot of these interviews, because I had a lot of addictions, especially pornography was a huge one of mine.
So like, while you're dealing with an addiction, and again, like I openly talk about, like I didn't have a fucking heroin addiction. It's not like I was like fucking over my family or living on the street due to my addiction. I was actively abusing Percocets and alcohol while working, and it fucking fucked my finances up, my life up, my mindset up, and everything else. While I was battling that, like there were multiple times where I just woke up with like deep rooted hatred, like actual hatred of myself. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, you came out here to do something better. Like you're 23, you're 24, you're going absolutely nowhere. Like, what the fuck is happening? And it happened like so many times where I was like confusing as to why I was allowing it to happen. Like why I had become this when I was in high school, and like coming out of high school, I felt like so proud. I thought it was going to be something big. Coming out to Calgary, I thought it was going to better my life. And then like nothing was happening. And then, I think that was like one of the straws that broke the camel's back. Because again, it wasn't like I changed instantly when I saw that video. I just started to try to change. And when I look back, there's always these different stories. But for some reason, even though I don't think that one was the worst that happened to me, it was one that really fucked me up. And I think it was because I lost control of myself, and other individuals saw it and they were embarrassed for me and took a video of me. So it was almost like pity and embarrassment of me. And then when I heard that, it fucked me up. To this day, I'm like, I don't think I'll ever forget the feeling of them like letting me hear the audio to that video and me not being able to control it. Right. When I felt like I lost control, that really messed me up mentally. And I was like, I'll never have that happen again.
Yeah. So you then, where did fitness come in? Like, what was the deciding factor that you're going to get into fitness?
It was actually kind of funny because it wasn't like I spoke to a coach instantly. It wasn't like anybody told me like, yo, fitness is your gateway to a better life. Fitness is the gateway to the millions you have today or anything like that. It literally just came down to the fact that I was working at the job site. All right. I couldn't leave. I'm like, this is the job I have, period. I'm an iron worker. This is how it's going to be. All right. And then I couldn't change my financial or my living situation because I was mad in debt based off of just dumbass decisions that I made. So I was like, I'm either going to be living with my sister in her spare bedroom on her couch or my brother on his spare bedroom or his couch. So I'm like, that's my living situation. I'm like, I have no fucking friends here because I haven't spent any time in the last 2 years to actually make friends. All I do is drink and fucking do drugs and work. I'm like, I never went out. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of like a little bit of an antisocial person unless the door's open and then I can really converse with people. So it's hard for me to break that barrier. So I just looked at my life and was like, well, what can I control? I was like, well, I can control what I put in my fucking mouth. I was like, I can control working on my mind. So it wasn't like anybody told me what to do or showed me the path or like even gave me a push in the right direction. I literally just looked at it subjectively and was like, I'm going to stop buying this and stop drinking and stop doing this for a while. And I'm just going to start eating better. I was like, I feel so bad about myself. I want to better myself. So I started to work online with an online coach. His name is Joseph Rakic. I don't know if you know who that is. Super well known in the UK. And again, I didn't work with him one-on-one. I just saw his app online. So I bought it and then started following his online workouts and following his work meal plans. Did that for around like 4 to 5 months and like started to like feel really good about myself. I wasn't doing drugs anymore. I was still drinking, but not like crazy amounts, just like having regular alcohol. And then as I was transforming my life, one of the individuals that I was working with, which again, and I always say this, it's funny because the dude who introduced me to the guy who introduced me to my coach that changed my life was also the dude who introduced me to Percocets. It's just, he was taking them as like, oh, it's all good recreational. And I took it to the next fucking level because that's how my mindset is. So it's like, he led me down both paths. And again, there's absolutely no resentment because it's not his fucking fault. It's mine. I don't believe in that shit. But he introduced me to his girlfriend's brother's coach, which is actually now my best friend and my business partner in 3 different companies, where he became the coach that helped me better my life, become an online coach, win 3 fitness competitions, became his business partner, scale their online businesses and more.
Wow. Beautiful. So fitness was almost the lowest hanging fruit where you're like, I can't control anything else.
Yep.
This is the thing that is in my control. And everybody who's kind of listening to this, it's like, what is in your control? I have a lot of people who reach out to me who say like, oh, my life's in shambles. I don't know what to do. It's like, well, start with the smallest thing. What is the thing that you can control right now?
Yep.
Okay. So you go from fitness, you start working out, you start feeling better. You get rid of the Percocets. You're drinking a little bit, but over time, you're starting to get better. How did you go from changing just your fitness situation to also changing your living situation, your financial situation, your career situation?
So in the midst of me starting to get into fitness, so it was in 2016 is when I met my coach. It was also in 2016 where I like dove into fitness full time and I met my wife today. So it was like everything fell into place like almost at once. It just, I didn't realize this was going to happen when all of those things came into my life. So worked on my own fitness goals, got like a good foundation under me, started to work on myself. All right. Met my coach, who is now my best friend and business partner. And when I met him, he literally said verbatim to me, you're going to do a fitness competition if you want me to coach you. And I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, I'm not fucking coaching you unless you do a fitness competition. I was like, okay, fuck it. Why not? I have no idea what goes into these shows and who cares? I need a challenge in my life. Fuck, it sounds good. Now, keep in mind, he charged me $350 a month at the time. And I did it for 6 months of prep before that show. And I had no fucking money. So I started selling things in my house because when I looked at him, I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's training guys that are more jacked than me. I want to be jacked like them. I'm like, I'm just going to do what I need to do in order to hire him. And I had no idea why. Like everybody always asks me, like, why did you go all in on this? I'm like, again, I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I just chose a path and was like, I went all in on perks. And now I'm going to go all in on this. Like, that's how I am. I'm an all in motherfucker. Right. I'm not going to do 50-50 anything. So started selling stuff that I own so I could pay for the coaching. I coached with him for 6 months. We won my first fitness competition, first in overalls, and like a beginner federation that was just starting in Canada. They didn't make it. They fucking failed. but whatever. It's all good. I won their only 2 shows. It was funny. So won the first one. And then I did what every fitness competitor does. I was like, I want to be a coach now. I'm the shit. Hell yes. Like I want to coach people. And he's like, there's no fucking way you're coaching anybody. You have no idea what you're talking about. You did one competition. He's like, put it this way. If you win your next show and you get certified as a PT, I'll teach you how to do what I'm doing. So because Brian, my business partner, was already doing online coaching, nothing crazy. He was making around 7 to 10K a month. And the reason why I resonated with Brian, who again is my business partner now, is he went through a similar story as me. I grew up in a trailer outside of Thunder Bay, Ontario, 45 minutes of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Grew up like lower middle class, struggling with money, a lot of anger, resentment, frustration in my family. And he grew up in a trailer park. Same thing. He went through a cocaine addiction. I went through a Percocet addiction. So we resonated with each other very well. So I just told him, bet. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm all in. Let's do it. So for the next 6 months, while I was an iron worker, busting my fucking ass, I would wake up at 4 a.m., do my entire work day, 10 to 12 hours outside as an iron worker. Then I'd get off, go do an hour and a half in the gym with 30 to 45 minutes of cardio. Then I'd go straight to boxing just because I love boxing. There's no relevance to the story other than I love it. Then I'd come home. I'd study for my PT for 1 to 2 hours. I'd get around 4 hours of sleep. And I did that for another 6+ months. Won my second show, first place in overall. So then he's like, okay, I'm going to make you a trainer on my team. He brought me into his team. Aesthetic Nation was the company that we scaled to $60,000 a month as a fitness coaching company. There was 3 other trainers on his team besides me. Within 2.5 months of me becoming a trainer on his team, I had quit my ironworking job to go get a job in person up at a camp up north. I landed 1 online client. I did the in-person job for 3 months and said, what the fuck am I doing? I hate this shit. So I quit. And then I went full-time online and made 10K 2 months later as an organic online fitness coach.
So I'm seeing that a common pattern with you is that your circle is extremely important. They kind of just dedicated or decided your path as well, because the whole self-improvement community always says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So what would you tell someone who is in a position where they aren't surrounded with the right people, whether it's their friends, family, it's not people that they want to be around? What would you tell them to do to be able to start being around the people that they need to be around?
So yeah, I got a little bit of a different perspective, and I say isolate. And the reason why is because before I met Brian, which again, right at that same time, around 3 months into me knowing Brian, we actually had an event happen at my job where I was an iron worker and my wife was an estimator in the office. They brought us together for a paintball event to do team building. Long story short, I shot her in the vagina with a paintball gun. We hit it off. I took her on a date. Now she's my wife and we got a kid together. I pat myself on the back. It was hilarious. So
best pickup line.
Yeah, 100%. What's up? Sorry about your vagina. I don't know what to tell you. So super fucking funny. Well, I met her, but if I would have met her, fuck, dude, anywhere earlier, 6 months earlier, 7 months earlier, a year earlier, we wouldn't be together. If I would have met Brian, fucking 6 months earlier, 7 months earlier, a year earlier, I would have never went on to his fitness program. The only reason why I became the person worthy of the individuals that helped me elevate my life, and that individuals that saw me, potential in me to help them elevate their lives, is because I isolated first. I feel like a lot of people feel like they can just go from the drug addict, alcoholic friends to the multi-million-dollar friends, and it's just not going to happen. You need to first develop the skill sets and the traits needed to be able to sit at this table. And that's what I did. That's why I always talk about embracing loneliness. It's something I talk about on my Instagram, my TikTok, etc. Because a lot of people don't like being lonely. The reason why they don't like being lonely is because then the dark thoughts pop up in their mind. The person that they have been hiding from the world ends up being super present in front of them. And then they got to look back in that mirror. So what do they usually do? They turn to alcohol to be able to take the mirror down. They turn to drugs to take the mirror down, or they try to surround themselves with people so they can at least distract themselves so they don't have to look in the mirror. When I isolated and looked straight in the fucking eyes of the mirror the whole time, and was like, I don't like this person. I'm going to start changing him. And then through doing that, I just embraced my core traits, my core values, started to learn what I liked and disliked about myself, met my wife. Within like 2.5 weeks of me knowing her, I was with her every fucking day. because I only could see her like 2 hours a night after I was done working my workouts and my gym session and everything else. So I just kept sleeping at her house. Within 2.5 weeks of knowing her, 3 weeks of knowing her, I moved into her 600 square foot apartment. So I was instantly away from my siblings, instantly away from all the ironworkers even more. And then again, within like 6 months to a year, I had already quit my job, only surrounded myself with people in the fitness industry, and was able to start elevating my situation. But it was only through isolation I was able to become the person worthy to sit at that table.
Love that. So going to your relationship as a high performer, how do you have a thriving relationship when you're trying to push yourself to be that better person? How do you balance, quote unquote, that act of being a family man, being with your wife, but also being a high performer?
I think it's all about communication, because I truly don't really believe in balance. And my wife also knows that like balance really isn't a thing in our household. Now, does that mean I neglect her and my brand new baby? Absolutely not. And does that mean I neglected her when we first started dating? Absolutely not. But at the same time, there's days where I got to work 15, 20 hours a day. And I'm going to do that because that's what's going to be able to provide the life for her that I want to provide. But without communication, none of this would have been possible. I was very good at communicating right at the very beginning. And it was honestly kind of a blessing in disguise, because Julia operates a little bit differently. That's my wife's name, Julia. And the reason why I say that is because this will make you laugh. And I know everybody listening will also probably chuckle a little bit. When we first started understanding what entrepreneurship was, she was very thrown off by it, because again, she met me while I was an iron worker. So then within however many months, when I said, fuck this, I'm quitting this job and I'm going full-time online, she's like, okay, dope. But again, it's not like I had a fuckload of money. So she's like, I'll front the rent for a couple months, which was only fucking $600 a month, because we lived in her parents' second apartment. So it wasn't like it was a lot. But it was the first week of me being an online entrepreneur. She came home and looked at me and she's like, hey, you're going to be at home all day, you might as well do the fucking dishes or something. Okay. You can't be dirtying up the house the whole time. So it's funny. Like there was always like open communication there. Like she would speak what's on her mind. So then I knew right away, oh, I can't just sit at my computer and not explain to her what I'm doing. Because if I don't explain to her what I'm doing, she's going to think I'm doing nothing all fucking day. And then she's going to get resentful. So as soon as I became an entrepreneur, dude, it was like open form communication about everything.
Love
like
that.
This is what I do all day, every day, all week, all month. And then like when she would hear all that, sometimes it would overwhelm her, because she's like, I did not know you did that much. Like, I did not know you're sitting at your computer for 5.5 hours because you're sending out 400 messages to get 20 appointments to sign 5 clients, to then build their programs for 9 hours a piece. So if I didn't have the communication, we wouldn't be able to build the life we have today at all. Not even a little bit. And because I embraced the communication, and because we had the conversation, and because we dove in everything the way that we did, she understood that some days I'm going to have to work a little bit harder, and I'm not going to be able to just hang out with her because I did that. Now we're loving it. We're living life the way we want to, because she's able to work at home, hang out at home. She's able to stay here with Cade. She doesn't have to go work a 9 to 5. It's great.
Love that. That's amazing. So constant communication of everything that you're doing, so that both people are on the same page.
Yes, dude. Always. Like, no matter what, how I'm feeling, if I'm having a bad day, I tell her instantly. Like, it's an instant thing for me, because it would be unfair for me to come out of this office after 9.5 hours and not seeing her. And then she goes to speak to me and I just bark, because it's going to happen. Like, we're fucking human beings. But if I literally, like, sometimes I'll text her and I'll be like, yo, tonight I just want to watch a movie with you. Like, I'm fucking annoyed at these motherfuckers. And then at the end of the day, like, I'll explain to her, I'm like, this is why I'm annoyed. Like, what's your perspective? And then sometimes she'll give me a little bit of nurturing advice. Sometimes, because I love my wife, she'll check me like, fucking shut up. Like, why are you letting these people ruin your day? I'm like, touche, babe. Fuck, sounds good. And then some days she'll just like, okay. And we'll just keep doing our thing, because without communication, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, I don't believe in balance, because if you do the traditional balance, you're going to have a traditional boring life. I don't do 9 to 5 work where I clock in at 9, clock out at 5, go hang out with the family until nighttime. I always say this statement and she hates it. And I say that I'm scared of becoming a soccer dad, and I refuse to become one. I don't want to be that dad who works a 9 to 5 and then goes and fucking clocks in for soccer practice. And I won't. I'll never become that person. It terrifies the shit out of me. even though she doesn't like the saying, because she's like, well, does that mean you're not gonna be in your kid's life? I'm like, no, of course not. But I won't be the traditional clock in, clock out, sit at the fucking dinner table and do that until 9 p.m., watch a show, go back to bed, never work on the weekends. I just don't believe in that.
So you mentioned that one of the things that you communicated is like, I need to send 500 messages so that we can get this many replies and this many people and all that.
Yes,
So
sir.
what would you tell someone who needs to get clients fast? Should they be spending time immediately upon the waking day, just sending 500 DMs a day, or is that not the best strategy?
Honestly, it depends, bro. Like if you're an online fitness coach, if you're running any online business, coaching more primarily because of the fact that you can come at it from a little bit of a different way, but any business in general, you just got to look at where you're starting. Like when I was first starting, I had no authority. I only had 200 social media followers. Now I have 185,000 on Instagram and 1.3 million on TikTok. I had nothing on social media. I had no authority in the industry. I had never served anybody. So it's not like I can just post up something on my bio, be like, I'm a coach, and expect people to come work with me. I had to do the fucking work. So I connected with a bunch of my friends, started training my friends. I connected with a bunch of my family, started training my family, connected with a bunch of acquaintances I had in high school. That's i.e. going through my power base, connected with a bunch of those people. Then I just started sending out DMs. Every single person that would like my content, look at my content, follow me, unfollow me, like we're having a conversation. And that's why within like 2-3 months, I hit 10K online, and I was able to continue to scale when other trainers on our team hadn't even touched that yet, because like it was a do or die with me. Like I'm a very traditional individual in the aspect of like, I will not let my wife be the person who provides for our family. She can go do whatever the fuck she wants, as long as I'm doing my due diligence as a man in the household and everybody's provided and protected. I was like, that's something that's very important to me. So I'm like, I just looked at it as a do or die situation. I refuse to let it not happen.
Love that. So just getting down and dirty, doing the boring work, just sit down and do it.
100%. Dude, I used to fucking dig turfers out of the mud for 12 hours a day. Now you're saying I can sit in this chair and send out a couple of DMs and make 20 grand a month? Like, yeah, done. I'll do that all fucking day, bro. Like people overestimate how much work this fucking takes, and they underestimate what actual hard is. Like online entrepreneurs got it fucking easy nowadays, and people just don't understand it.
Right. So if you were starting from scratch, 0 followers, nobody knows who you are, $0 in the bank, what would be your first week like?
The first thing that I would do on social media is I would contact, well, the first thing I would do in general is I would contact every friend, acquaintance, family member, or person that I'm currently working with, i.e. coworkers, and tell them that I'm starting my business and I would love to help them. The reason why is because first off, you got to get a little bit of training under your belt. And the more people you help for free, the more testimonials you have to post on social media, the more proof you have, the more clients you get. That's number one. Number two is I would start posting like a motherfucker on social media, and not written posts. I would be doing 3 to 5 reels a week and doing what I do now, picking up the camera and just saying exactly what's on your mind. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't try to sound like a scientist. Don't try to sound like Lane Norton with a PhD. Speak your opinion. The reason why I've done so well on social media in the last 1 to 2 years is because I don't try to sugarcoat anything. I don't try to sound smarter than I am. I don't try to utilize any of the certification language that I have, from the bodybuilding certification, from the CPT, from the sports nutrition, or anything else. I just say exactly what is on my mind, period. And through doing that, people feel my authenticity and they know I want to serve. So that's what I would do first. DM all the people I know, start training people for free. And then I'd start cranking out content online to get my message out there. And then anybody who engaged in my content, I'd start messaging them to build relationships, not to get clients. And this is the thing. Like, if you're just starting, keep your fucking job and grind until you're making like 5, 10, 15K a month. This whole concept of like, you have to quit your job to go all in as an online entrepreneur is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And because a lot of people just don't have what it takes. All right. It also takes a lot of stars to line up for you to be able to quit your job and then be able to magically make 10K instantly so you can supplement your income. Because let's be real, 10K ain't that much money. You make 10K gross. You got to take out what? $1,500 to $2,500 a month for rent. You got $1,000 in groceries. You got gas, utilities, you got food. That 10K turns into 3 to 5 very quickly. Right? Like, and people don't get it. Not to mention, as soon as they hit 10K, what do? They go buy the watch, they buy the clothes. Yeah. They start upgrading their car for no fucking reason. It's a busted piece of shit. You don't need to put nice rims on a Honda Civic. Like it's you know what I mean? So like, I'd keep my spending super low. That's what I did. All right. I lived below my means for a long fucking time, very long time. And just grinding my face off, dude. My work ethic is relentless. I will outwork everybody. And I know everybody says that shit, but nobody's got the results to actually back it up.
Love it. So when you're hiring someone, what are some red flags that you look at that you go, this guy's not going to be a good entrepreneur, or this guy is going to, some green flags, this guy is going to be a good entrepreneur?
I look at the core values that our company embodies, and that's pretty much it. And the reason why is because unless we're hiring for a very specific role, like a sales closer or an actual coach, we look at the core values. If you're a sales closer, you have to have sales skills. Okay. Like I don't want to teach you from the ground up, because then there's no point in me hiring you, because it's going to take forever for you to get there. Now, if you have some sales skills, I can train all the other stuff in you, which will be good. All right. A coach, we have prerequisites. If you want to teach in our CLA, which is a level 1 program, you have to be making $20,000 plus a month. If you want to teach in our 10K mastermind, you have to be making $50,000 plus a month. If you want to teach on our $1 million mastermind, you have to be making $100,000 plus a month. And all of our coaches are currently doing that. We have 15 coaches like that. So they are prerequisites. Other than those positions though, like everything else, COO, all right, CFO, all these other positions that you can hire for at a company. We have, well, I think it was right now 47 employees at our company. As long as you embrace our core values, then that's all good to go. All right. As long as you have integrity, responsibility, a willing to learn, coachability, relentless work ethic, like as long as you embrace a certain set of characteristics and core values, then I'm down. And the only red flag is you not operating out of those. And we know very quickly. And this is why I embrace the statement from Gary Vee: hire fast, fire faster. Like, dude, I live and breathe integrity. I think integrity is probably the main thing across the board. If you don't have integrity, you don't have anything. And if you have integrity, you don't need anything else. It's just the core value of everything. Like punctuality is something that's right away. So if you start being late, and I'm talking about like a half a minute late, that's a red flag for me, because it just shows you don't care. So that's all. It's all about characteristics and core values to me.
I love that. So if someone's listening to this and they want to move faster in life, okay, they want to get faster results, whether it's in business and health and relationships, what is something they need to do or they need to stop doing? Like, for example, what is something that you just stopped doing? Maybe stop answering emails or stop giving discounts, or what are some things that you just said, no, I'm not doing this anymore? Of course, you said no to like drugs and drinking and all those things. But as you got a second level up, you started building a successful business. What were some things you said, okay, I need to take a step back, I'm not doing this anymore?
Dude, it's funny that you said email, because I absolutely fucking hate my email. I have my assistants do that now, because when I don't do it, it literally builds up, and I've got like 5 emails with over like 1,000 unread emails, because I hate it. Don't ever email me. You'll never get a hold of me. Now, what did I like stop doing? Honestly, there wasn't anything really that was like distracting me. And that's where like my story is a little bit different, because I had already isolated for so long. My things were, I cut out everything that doesn't serve me. So like obviously drugs, I've been sober for 8+ years, but alcohol, I never actually gave up, because I didn't consider myself as an alcoholic until October 26, 2021, where I decided to stop drinking because I was going to do a fitness competition, my 4th fitness competition. And then within 30 days, I was like, oh, I feel way better. And then 60 days, I was like, fuck yeah. And then I was like, let's see if I can do 75, because I always said I couldn't do 75 hard because of alcohol. And then I did 75, then I hit 100. I was like, I'll never drink again. And now I haven't drank in over 650 days. Wow. I'm like, it's done. I'll never touch another drop of alcohol, because what I do is I audit my day, I audit my life, I audit my surroundings, and I ask myself, what is not serving me? If it's not serving me, and or if there's no positive benefit, it's gone. And there's no hesitation. So what would I cut out instantly on a different perspective, if drugs and alcohol are not part of the conversation, would be anybody who does not have my best intentions at heart. Meaning every time I bring up a positive affirmation or a positive goal or a dream of mine, they just tell me the negative of it. I do not need to hear that. Fuck off. There's always a negative with everything. I want to make $1 billion. Well, that's a lot of taxes you got to pay. Yeah, no shit, bro. Thanks. Like, I don't need to hear the negative. I don't need to hear you be pessimistic or toxic or whatever. Anybody who goes against what my dreams are gone. And I don't mean in a positive way, meaning they care for you. I mean in a negative, pessimistic way. I would get rid of everybody that does not serve that and who goes against my core values. To give you an example, again, integrity, responsibility, punctuality, and care it means a lot to me. So when there's an individual in my life, whether they're very close or they're an acquaintance, if I start noticing that there's less care towards me than I put towards them, or if I start noticing a lack of punctuality, a lack of integrity, a lack of responsibility, they're gone. And it's not like I have an in-depth emotional conversation with you. You just stop hearing from me. Because that's my boundary. Like, that's it.
Love that. So it's almost protecting your mental space, making sure that it's always protected.
I always like to look at it like this. And I'll say two things here to add on as well. I have a piggy bank that I start with every single day. And that piggy bank is filled with my mental energy. And I've only got $10 to spend. So I'm like, by the time I reach the end of my day, I then look at that $10 and I'm like, what actually drained my mental energy? And then I look, has it been continuously draining my mental energy? And is it helping me or is it holding me back? And if it's been holding me back, I stop spending money on that fucking thing.
Love that.
Right. And then when it comes down to like, what can people do to see success in their life? Two simple things very quickly: take messy action, be your authentic self. You're never going to be perfect. So just run full speed at the fucking thing that you want to build. That's how we built our entire company to over $7 million last year, is we ran full speed, jumped out the fucking plane without the parachute, built the parachute on the way down. That's literally how it happened, bro. I'm like, we had no path. We just decided to go at it. That's how it happened. And then authentic self. I am me, 100% me at all times. I don't care who you are. This is how I speak to my wife. This is how I speak to my friends. This is how I speak to my social media, because people hate me for being fake. So I'd rather be me and have you hate the real me.
I love that.
Right.
I really like doing rapid fire questions. Would you be down to do that?
Yeah, we got some time. Hit me.
Sweet. What are 3 traits or words that your friends would use to describe you?
Integral, responsible, and relentless.
Love it. What are 3 positive traits that you feel like you want to improve on or you feel like you miss?
See, that was a hard one. That one fucks me up a little bit. I would say love. I'm just gonna wrap that into one, because I'm very, and I'll explain why, because I'm not going to give you all 3. I'm not good at taking compliments from others. And I'm not good at allowing myself grace or giving myself love, even though I'll give it to others. So that'd be the only one I want to touch on.
What is your greatest fear?
Not being remembered. It scares the shit out of me that I could be on this planet for 100 years and be forgotten as soon as I die.
Interesting. What's the last book you read and what's the best book you've read?
I don't read books, but I'm currently reading the 48 Laws of Power and Buy Back Time from Dan Martell, because I've finally reached a point in my life where I've absorbed so much knowledge and I want to be even better, because I'm chasing Eric Thomas, the best motivational speaker on the planet. And if I don't improve my language, the way I articulate myself and the way that I dissect verbs and more on stage, I won't be able to. So that's why I'm attacking those 2 books.
Love it. What's the best quote that you've heard?
Well, my favorite one, or one of my favorite ones, because let's be real, I've got a billion favorite ones, is unchain your mind from the imprisonment of fear. It's tattooed on my rib cage, and it's from my idol, CT Fletcher, the individual that I listened to every single day while I was working out in the gym, while I was beating my Percocet addiction.
Love that. Does religion play a factor in your life? If so, how?
No, I don't not believe in a higher power, but it's very confusing to me. So I more just lean into energy. I do believe there's something in the universe, i.e. energy on a continual basis, but no.
And these last 2 are really fun. What animal would you pick as your spirit animal?
Bro, wolf, dog. That's why it says Cold Wolf to sell on my social media, son.
Love it. And one superpower, what would you have?
Bro, that one, see, this one always fucks me up. One superpower. I like, obviously everybody says strength and flying. I have no idea why, but ever since I was a kid, and I saw the dude on X-Men be able to snap and have a fireball in his hands, that's just gangster as fuck to me. I would love to be able to control fire. That'd be cool.
That's cool. Awesome, man. Dude, thank you so much for hopping on. For everybody who's been listening to this, hope this has been extremely helpful. Where can they find you? What are you up to? Tell them where they can reach out.
I love it. So right now we're actually going all in on YouTube. So I would love if you guys could come check out my YouTube channel. All of my social media platforms are spelled like this: COLELUISDASILVA, Cole Lewis de Silva. So Instagram, TikTok, everything across the board, but YouTube is the one that I'm really, really going all in on right now. And only because of the fact that I want to be able to provide more fucking value. My entire goal is to impact billions/generations. And the reason why I'm headed down that path is because I felt helpless as a kid, and I don't want anybody else to feel like that as well.
I love that. Dude, thank you so much for hopping on. We'll stay on for a little bit. For everybody who hopped on, this was killer. This was killer. And I would suggest everybody who listened to this go back, replay it over and over again, because there was a lot of gems in this one. Take care, guys, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate you, dog.